Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling? Calling me to answer, gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new road. Far across the river, do you hear freedom calling? Calling me to answer, gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my
That's some good energy at the end of the day. A little bit of joyful music. Welcome to all of our allies. We are continuing to grow and gather and move this movement forward. So glad that you are here with us this evening. I believe, actually, Thomas, are you on? You on mute? Well, while I wait for Thomas to respond, just wanted to make note, as you guys read on the slide there, we are looking to hear from you and get some feedback on why this group has been valuable, what you would like to share with others, where we can begin to help people know where this group has improved your ability to be an ally, to understand, to hear what is happening. But actually, I realized something, Thomas, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about it. Are you ready to come on screen?
My bad, I thought I was on screen.
Oh yeah, no, there you are. So hey, I have to tell you something, Thomas.
What happened?
Happy anniversary. It's been 1 month that we have been running Operation Ally.
You're way too cute, way too cute.
We started, well, I'm technically 1 day early, but I wanted to give you a public declaration of this happy anniversary, not only to you, but to everyone else who has joined us. Some of you have literally been in it from day one. June 3rd was our very first meeting that we held publicly and began this journey of empowering active allyship and really helping people understand what it means to do more than just say you love a community, but to act on behalf of the betterment of that community. So, hey, happy anniversary, y'all, or month anniversary. We can be like we were in high school and celebrate every little incremental step that you get along the way. But we're not breaking up anytime soon. So,
yeah, Jason, my high school relationships only lasted maybe 1 or 2 celebrations, so maybe not.
Yeah, I think that accounts for most high school relationships. They're not built for the long term. I think they're actually just built for the term. Whatever semester you're in, that's about all you get. So hey, if you would like to put a statement, type out a brief statement on what this group has done for you. We would love to hear that and understand what keeps you coming to the group. That'll help us to continue to expand the group and help us to focus on the right things so that we know we're providing valuable information and allowing you the best chance to take action in this regard. And of course, if you're not receiving any emails and you want to be, go ahead and put them in the comments. We put your email in the comments and we will get that to you. Thomas, were we going to do some housekeeping items aside from this, or are there other things?
Nope, that was it. Just wanted to make sure folks got added to the email list if they're not already, and to use the chat. We did. We are going to get started with the wellness exercise. If that's what you mean.
Yes, there's that as well. Oh, by the way, if you do have a Facebook page and you can share this, you can go to Social Justice Advocacy Project. That is our that is kind of our covering nonprofit organization that has been sponsoring. This is Thomas's organization, as many of you well know. Hey, thank you for all your first timers. We're super excited to see that. That means we must be doing something good if people are coming and inviting others. But if you are, if you would be so kind, if you guys have a Facebook page, you could go to the Social Justice Advocacy Project, like the page there. You'll see as you scroll down a live video being shared within our page. That only goes out to people who have already liked the Social Justice Advocacy page. If you would like to promote this voice, project this voice, amplify this voice, go onto your social media, go to the Social Justice Advocacy page, hit that share button and put this on your personal timeline. And that way your community, your friends, your family, your associates can see some of the work that you're participating in, and perhaps spark a question that takes them deeper. Maybe they won't listen to the whole thing, but maybe they'll catch something that causes them to want to reach out to you. And that's exactly what true allyship is, because Thomas and I recognize that our voice is not going to be heard in every area of the community, but the more people see and hear that you're taking steps to learn in this arena, they will become more willing to do the same. So host a watch party, share it, do all the things that you do on social media, like, heart, whatever it is, whichever media platform you're on. So let's now toss it over to, it's Michelle who's running the wellness exercise, right?
That is correct. Let me make her a co-host.
Will that make me in charge of the slides?
Yes. So you are a co-host. You should have full capabilities.
The power.
I'm using
in
it
your
on
hands.
my, I'm using my iPad. Do I just swipe? Oops, nope, I just wrote on it. That's not correct. Do you mind swiping for me? Because I don't know where it's at. Cool. Oh, I see the little arrows. Nope, it won't let me.
Well, actually, no. I'm sorry. I didn't know that I was controlling the slides. We're all good.
All right, cool. Hey, everybody. My name is Michelle Pasos, and I am the co-owner and co-founder of United Yoga Studio. And I've been friends with Brittany since high school, and I'm a resident of Laverne, and I'm so grateful to be able to share with you all again today. I know last week we did a few minutes of breath work at the end, and so we're going to start with some breath work as well. So wherever you are, go ahead and close your eyes. Unless you're driving, keep them open. And you can have a focal point or stare down the bridge of your nose. And what I want you to do is, again, put one hand across your belly and one hand across your chest. And try not to make any sudden changes, and see if you can simply observe the quality of your breath in this very moment. And as you observe your breath, you're doing it without judgment. And maybe for some of you, it's a little bit hard to feel your breath. And that would be an indicator that this is a good moment for you to practice some breath work. And if you feel like your mind is wandering right now, bring your awareness to where your body is in contact with whatever's supporting you. So for me, it's the ground and a block, but for you, it might be a chair or a couch or a bed. You might even be standing. But see if you can bring to the forefront of your mind where you're connecting with your support. And then from that place of support, let's start to inhale in through your nose. And then slowly exhale out of your nose. So just a little bit more intentional with your breath. Inhale from the base of support, lifting up through the crown of your head, and then exhale right out. Again, you're breathing in through the nose, but the energy is drawing from that contact point of whatever's holding you right now. And I want you to recognize what you're breathing in right now is oxygen. What you're breathing out is carbon dioxide. You're inhaling life. And you're exhaling toxins. Inhaling what we call prana. Exhaling mala. Inhaling energy. Exhaling waste. So let's do that a few more times at your own pace. And if you find yourself losing focus, with compassion, come back to your breath and start over. Let's take 3 more, and this time we're going to do an audible exhale. So empty all of your air out. Inhale in. And this time open up your mouth and exhale. 2 more like that, like you're fogging up a mirror. Breathe in. And exhale. 1 more big breath in. And let it all go. Before opening your eyes, relax your arms. You're letting go of this controlled breath. And see if you can return to the seat of the observer of yourself and notice any subtleties, any difference in your energy, maybe even in your body, your headspace. And then see if you can drop down from your headspace, drop a little bit deeper from your body and into your heart space. And recognize what emotions are present in this moment. Maybe you're feeling joy and happiness. Maybe you're feeling really down and angry. And maybe you're feeling all of the above. So know that you can experience and feel all the things all at the same time. And then to seal in this practice, again, bring your hands back to your heart and your belly. And let's set the intention for tonight's meeting for us to really be open to what we have to learn and be open to hearing each other out in the breakout rooms and having an open mind. So with that intention, let's take 1 more big breath in together. And exhale, let it go. You can release your hands and open up your eyes. So thank you for joining me with that. We can go on to the next slide here. So for tonight's practice, what I wanted to share with y'all is what we use in yoga. Sorry, 1 moment. I have to let my dog in or else he's gonna whine the whole time. All right, so I use a lot of English words in here. You'll also see some other words that are maybe not familiar to you. It is it's from the Sanskrit language, really similar to all of our other ancient languages like Hebrew and Greek and Latin. And so I want to make sure that I give credit to the culture, to the Indian culture. And this is from a model that's called the Prana Agni Mala model. And so this is a really great wellness tool and a way for you to assess yourself. So as we were doing that exercise, when you inhale, you're inhaling life and energy and oxygen. When you exhale, we're releasing carbon dioxide and waste and residue. So simply breathing is going to be a way for your body to cleanse itself. But there's also other things that we do in our life that add, again, prana, so life and energy, and then mala, which is going to be waste and residue. And the more choices that we make that give us prana, the more we're able to be well and to reach optimal wellness and also sustain wellness. The more mala we put into our body, the more we are subjected to have it manifest in our body as an injury, as an illness and disease. Carolyn Myss says that all illnesses come from an energy depletion. So this is a really similar concept. So what I'd like you to do is grab a piece of paper if you don't already have one, or you can even pull out your notes in your phone and just write down physical layer, mental layer, emotional layer, and spiritual layer. And then underneath that, you could do a bullet point, or you can copy my graph as it is right in front of you. And you're going to write down prana and mala. And so we're just going to take a moment here and assess yourself. And last week, I was so grateful that Jason and Thomas talked about sustainable advocacy and what we can do to take care of ourselves, because again, this is a marathon and not a sprint. But I've also noticed in the last couple of weeks that people are coming to me and asking me, how do you do it? Like, how are you staying well during this time? And so here's the way that I do it. This is the way that I'm able to observe my choices. And sometimes it might not even be your choices. It could just be an awareness around whatever you're doing. So we'll start with the physical layer. So what choices do you make? Let's go with mala first, that give you more mala. And so I have some examples for me. So if I eat fast or processed food, that gives me more mala in my body. Too much caffeine, or I guess caffeine on a daily basis. Sitting all day and then lounging on the couch all night. So I'll let you write down what yours are. And this is something that you can do every day or once a week or even once a month. And then now identify, okay, well, what do you do that gives you prana? So exercise, yoga, sleep, eating greens, drinking water, taking bubble baths, self-massage, or maybe going and getting a real massage, and then breathing. For me, just a few moments of breath work makes such a huge difference, especially for me right now. That was super helpful because I was rushing to get all three of my little ones and my niece through dinner and bath time, and they're sitting and watching a movie right now. So I was go, go, go. And I know a lot of us have been go, go, go. So let's go to the mental layer. So what gives you mala? For me, multitasking, saying yes to too many things, which is something that I've done my whole life. So busyness, social media, so scrolling on social media, too much technology, and then alcohol. That's not something I personally struggle with, but I know that's something that many of us do. So yeah, I had a friend who was like, I've been drinking a lot of wine lately. And so that was her indicator that something doesn't feel right. I'm now self-soothing instead of having self-coping. So what gives you prana in your mental layer? For me, mindfulness. So actually being present with what's in front of me, letting go of my phone, losing my phone. Having a teacher, I have a mentor, maybe it's therapy for you. Reading books, podcasts, having a planner so that I don't have so much stuff in my head. And then having a done list. A lot of us have to-do lists, but it's really important to also have a done list so that you feel like you've I don't know, for me, I feel like I'm never doing enough. So focusing on a done list reminds me that I have done it enough. Let's go to the emotional layer. So mala could be spiritual bypassing. So as a woman of faith and someone who understands the value of gratitude, sometimes that doesn't allow me to sit with my emotions. And sometimes this is a cultural thing as well, right? You're not allowed to feel what you're allowed to feel. Sometimes it's also, it's a lot harder for men because of our culture as well. So toxic masculinity says that you're not allowed to cry if you're a man. Judgment on myself and others, guilt and blame. What gives me prana is meditation, playfulness and dance, community, whether that's doing something like Operation Ally or being in a group thread or church, and then compassion and forgiveness. And let me know if I'm going too slow. I mean, too fast. I'm never going too slow. Okay, the final one is spiritual layer. So mala for me would be the media, technology, social media, ego and grandiosity, and then anger and cynicism. What gives me prana for my spiritual layer would be having a quiet time, meditation, worship, maybe it's chants for you or both, and then service, so how you're contributing, the legacy that you're living. So once you're able to sit down and identify, okay, this clearly gives me prana, this clearly gives me mala, at any given moment, if you're feeling a sense of depletion, if you're feeling sticky, if you're feeling down, you can sit down and you can think about, okay, well, what have I done today? Or what has my awareness been today? What have my habits been in the last couple of weeks? And then you can see, well, where am I feeling it? Am I feeling it in my physical body? Is it in my head space? Is it in my heart space? Or is it in my spirit? And then you can again decide, okay, this is where I need to make changes. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with that's really, really important is if you see the graph, there's fire. So fire is what in Sanskrit they call Agni. And so this part is really important because you need fire to cleanse. And setting intentions has to be, setting intentions is what's going to represent that fire. And when you set an intention, it's not supposed to be something that's really easy for you. For example, if I asked everybody who's brushed their teeth today, everybody's going to raise their hand. If I say who flossed, maybe a few less hands are going to go up. So it would be an intention for you to make sure that you're flossing every day. It has to be something that you're not necessarily doing, and that would be a little bit more out of your comfort zone to start to do it. So yeah, so that's it. Once you are able to do this, you can start to implement your tools, and you can look at your choices as tools for your wellness. And again, this puts the power back into your hands, and it's really helped me. And so I hope it helps you all. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I really love this stuff and I geek out on it. And again, Jason and Thomas, thank you so much for having me share.
Thank you for sharing. I feel so much better. I mean, last week it was life-changing, and this week it was the same. Now I just want to go to sleep. But instead, we're not going to go to sleep. We're going to talk about race. So let's talk about race, baby. Okay. So we're going to be starting a new series on race. Like, I want to break down exactly how racism works and why we are where we are. Hopefully you've also gotten the book Well by Sandro Galea, and you've already begun reading that. A mixture of what we learned from that particular work and this 4-part series should work together for a pretty good discussion on what is it that we want our communities to look like, and how are we going to go about accomplishing those particular things. And I think the book does a really good job of interweaving race, law, policy, class, gender, etc., into how they might impact particular health outcomes. And I think if folks are healthy, if folks are happy, then they probably have nothing to complain about. Okay, so the goal here in my world is how do we create a happy, healthy life for folks who are doing nothing wrong, right? Maybe if you're a real criminal, then you should be a little afraid. Okay, get it. But what about the rest of us who just want to go about life as best as possible, right? And I think that the government, our communities, and everyone around us should be situated and established in a way that allows us to access that health and that happiness. Okay, so we're going to start that discussion by talking about race. What is it? How does it play out? Jason's going to talk about some few historical things. He spoke this past Sunday in what I thought was I don't want to sound too flattering, but I thought it was groundbreaking to hear from the other side of the pulpit, it's okay not to be colorblind. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do in this discussion is to put aside what you believe about the value of colorblindness. Okay, if you're white, I am going to say it is totally okay to embrace your whiteness. Okay, if you are black, embrace your blackness. If you are brown, whatever you are, embrace it, right? Because quite honestly, I've been doing quite a bit of research on the area. You know, folks in San Gabriel Valley has kind of challenged me indirectly. If you ever say something that I say is inaccurate or incorrect, I want you to understand that you've just challenged me, okay? So the folks in San Gabriel Valley challenged me to prove to them racism here exists, okay? So I have been literally on a 2-week journey. Unfortunately, my posting has gone down a little bit or whatever, but like literally 10 to 12 hours a day I put into this research project of understanding how racism actually works. And I've convinced myself that colorblindness is absolutely not the solution to ending racism. It is absolutely, the solution I think is hinged on color appreciation, right?
Yes.
And once we gain full appreciation for everybody else, then we start to understand that there's a natural equality, right? That happens so that if you're white, I am not offended by white power. I've never actually been offended by white power. Excuse me, there are some folks that are going to take exception to that, but I've never been offended by it because I believe in black power, okay? And so from my lens, they're equal. From your lens, they might not be. And that's what we have to fix, I think, in today's discussion and over the next few weeks is how does white power and how does black power get translated through different lenses? One that lends ourselves to a feeling of superiority, the other lending ourselves to a feeling of equality, okay? And I'm going to invite you into the space where your race and your identity makes you absolutely equal and you're able to embrace it as you will. But embracing it, I also want you to be absolutely honest, okay, with what you think about other races, okay? Confront those stereotypes head on. I'm gonna be open and honest. I, for a long time, thought all white people were hateful, period. At the end of the day, I thought there was a little bit of whiteness that just made white people hateful people, that no matter what you did to them, no matter how you tried to convince them, no matter what you showed them, all you would get at the end of the day is hate, a natural part of whiteness. That is me confronting a stereotype.
Yeah, and Thomas, you know, I'll echo some of that comment. Not that I carried it myself, but that I have heard that resound throughout areas within the Black community. And, you know, when I see those types of statements or I hear those types of statements, I, as an advocate for equality and equity, I speak up about that because the reality is not all white people are bad the same way not all Black people are bad, right? And if we're going to ask for this equitable treatment, we need to be prepared to provide it as well. Now, I will say this, you're going to have to explain to me this, you're being okay with white power, because that does come across in a different language and a different lens than what we have, what we've known Black power to be. And I think there's definitely some room for growing and understanding in that, because listen, none of us have perfected this thing. We're all learning together. We're all growing together. So I'm going to be interested in having a conversation with you around that, whether that's today or as we continue through this process. So definitely we need to provide equal footing and equitable footing for all people in this process. So I just wanted to echo that and say I've experienced this not just as an individual, but within a larger community. And it's something that needs to be addressed as well.
Right. So, I mean, that being said, race is not real, okay? Race is not real. Race becomes and it gets its value from racism, okay? If property and power was not distributed based on race, you would probably not care so much that I'm a Black man. You'd probably not care. I would probably not care so much that you're a white person or a Latino person, etc. Right? But what makes race actually matter to people is how property gets and power gets distributed based on it. And what we've seen in the United States is we've seen a division between what is considered white and what is considered non-white, okay? And for a while, white did not include what white now means, okay? There are a lot of people who get access to power and privilege now by being considered white, when in reality, at the start of the United States, would not have been given those same rights, okay? So when we talk about whiteness, we have to even talk about the concept of whiteness has been an evolving concept that has gotten broader and broader as it has become necessary to defend against the central core of what whiteness has come to mean in this particular country. Okay.
So do you want to jump into the definitional part or continue? Yeah. So Thomas mentioned that I spoke on Sunday. The pastor of my church allowed me to speak and take a stand on behalf of our community. I go to a multicultural church, and he had actually asked me to speak long before any of the events that have led to our current civil unrest happened. And it just so happened that my speaking week lined up with being able to respond to what is going on. And so these are some of the topics that I'll discuss. You'll hear framed around a Christian faith, but whatever your belief in humanity and where we receive our core value as beings, much of this will apply regardless of your particular faith structure. But the place where I wanted to start actually is in a quote, and it might be somewhat unrelated, but it truly does. It encapsulates what we're doing as a whole. And it's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who, of course, many of us respect and look up to, especially in this type of a situation, where it says, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And I wanted to start there today because I know we have several people who are with us for the very first time, and they're beginning to understand that something needs to happen. And this is where you really get to define who you are in moments of uncertainty and discomfort. Where are you going to stand? Where are you going to take a decision upon? And where are you going to change actions that have been allowed to manifest for far too long? So I wanted to find a few terms, race and ethnicity. And it's common to see the terms race and ethnicity used interchangeably. But generally speaking, the meanings are distinct. Race is usually seen as biological, referring to physical characteristics of a person. So we would look at skin tone, like Thomas said. You probably wouldn't care if that we're Black or you're white or they're brown or Asian or whatever it may be. It wouldn't matter if it didn't have implication to our structure and our culture and our country where we live. So race is usually seen as biological, referring to a person's physical characteristics. So generally referring to how do you appear physically, oftentimes referring to skin and skin tone. While ethnicity is viewed as a social science construct that describes a person's cultural identity. Ethnicity can be displayed or hidden depending on an individual's preferences or racial identities, but they're always on display to a greater or lesser degree. And here's, like Thomas was saying, the goal is not color blindness, right? The goal is not the minimization or the elimination of race or ethnicity. It's not. And if you actually think about it, if you try to eliminate all ethnicity, all race, then what you end up doing is actually you discount the creativity of God. Because the way that we are made, the way that we are designed is to display all facets of the creative beauty. And it was never designed for that to just become one thing and for us to all look alike. For those of you who have a faith base, there's two specific scriptures, or a Christian faith base. There are two specific scriptures that I referenced. One is the Great Commission that Jesus gave, and he says to go to all, take this message and go unto all nations. In the Greek, that is referred to as panta ta ethne, to all the ethnicities. And so God calls out all ethnicities to him. And in Revelation, there's no S at the end of that book, by the way, just Revelation chapter 7, we specifically read where God says that every tribe, every tongue, every nation will worship him in heaven. And so we see God call out all, and we see God uplift and desire all to be worshiping him. Now, if you don't have a faith base and all of that was kind of like, I don't really believe in God and creation and all those things, recognize that our humanity and the way that we are created, while we all have specific, or we all come from a similar pool in a similar place, there has been uniqueness in what we have become. And the reality is that it's part of the process, and it's part of what should be celebrated about us. We actually should be looking to, so when Black people say, I'm not looking for color blindness, one of the reasons for that is it discounts that there's a reality of our experience that's unique in this country, right? If you say, oh, well, I just wish everybody would be colorblind, what you're saying is everybody has the same experience. But that we know that's not true. And we can look at some historical timelines. I don't know, Thomas, did you grab any of the slides that I had from Sunday? I don't think you did, right? Okay, I saw you say no, you didn't, but you're muted. That's I can read lips. So that is race in general, the description of race.
Let me talk about, and you're right about that, is not only does color blindness discount the unique narrative of the Black community, it also discounts the solutions to what is going to be necessary for the Black community. Okay, an example of this actually is one of the things I consider a absolute necessity. If you say Black Lives Matter, one thing that's absolutely necessary is Black economy. We have to build the Black economy, okay? But the very first thing that we create a Black-owned corporation, and the very first question is, well, are you going to discriminate against the owners? Are you going to discriminate against the shareholders? Are you going to discriminate against the employees? Okay, the law says we can't, all right? But what we know is that particularly in this area, there's been systemic discrimination that makes it where the Black community is so far behind all the other communities in this area that it is going to require something special to get us caught up. But we can't get caught up because the law is colorblind in that you're not allowed to prefer any race over another one, right? So historically, we've preferred particular races. Now we've gotten to the point where it is illegal to prefer races over another one. And now that prevents the Black community from actually excelling in the way that it needs to. And the reason that becomes a problem, other minorities such as the Chinese, for instance, the Chinese have a remarkable history in the San Gabriel Valley in that they were able to plant themselves literally within the white middle class because of their transnational business relationship with China. So because China was wealthy and rich, the folks over there who were wealthy and rich were able to come here and then use their wealth and riches from China to establish corporations and banks here. And then they opened it up so that more folks can immigrate over to this particular region through their businesses, right? So you have an entire race of people that were able to concentrate their wealth in a way that brings minorities over. It establishes them in the white middle class. Now they have better health outcomes, they have better education outcomes, they have better living outcomes, right? Well, when you talk about a people, say Black people, who were not only separated from that relationship to, say, the other country, but were intentionally cut from it so that those relationships could not exist or that commerce couldn't happen, then you're literally talking about a minority group who is not able to situate themselves and establish themselves the same way, say, the Chinese have been able to, the Vietnamese or even the Japanese with Little Tokyo. So all of what we see is all of these little enclaves have international connections to other countries. And that is what makes other minority groups able to economically compete. Even though they're still behind, they're at least in a better position than the Black community because they have access to those economic ties. The Black community does not have that. Okay, so when we start talking about colorblindness, we start talking about the fact that we're not able to access the type of thinking and imagination that is going to be necessary for true Black lives or for Black lives to truly matter. Okay, and in order for Black lives to truly matter, we got to be equal. Okay, but we're literally talking about in San Gabriel Valley, and I'm gonna keep throwing research at you because literally this is all I've been doing for 2 weeks. You don't believe racism exists? It exists, right? So like literally, we are talking between 1% and 3% of the population in San Gabriel Valley are Black, literally because we were not allowed to get property here. We were not allowed to purchase property. Once we were allowed to purchase property, things were priced so high, we were not able to get mortgages to match those prices. And then we have literally, and actually I found out about this later, a full-on white nationalist movement in San Gabriel Valley that was expressly targeting Black individuals. We've had Mexican gangs in Azusa and Pomona expressly targeting Black individuals in this region. So then when we look at why are there no Black people in this region, we recognize why, right? So historically, we've been different. Now the argument is we should be treated the same without fixing any of the issues that have happened because of the history. And that's partly why understanding the differences of race and the histories of each race is necessary for us to understand why racism ultimately matters so much. Research shows most white people, 17% of white people, only 17% of white people consider their race important to their identity, right? Compared to more than, I think it was well over half of Black individuals consider their race important in their identity and how they move throughout society, right? That difference there means that colorblindness works in favor of white individuals who've historically had access to different land and capital than it does to Black individuals who still suffer from discrimination because of their identity and their race as far as their identity. Jason, you're muted.
Well, that was 2 weeks worth of passion built up. You've been waiting to get that off your chest, brother.
I have been.
And I know you just got started. You guys, if we let him go, he would just talk for another hour on it. And and but we know that there is a different experience in this country. By the way, Thomas, I just emailed you something. If you could pull it up once I get to that part, the timeline. I think I sent you 2 emails. It should be the second. So we know that races have different experience in America, and when it comes to the Black race and the African American race, which, by the way, which is the right word to use? African American, Black? It depends who you're talking to. I'm sorry, there's no easy answer for that. A lot of different individuals feel differently about it. Some people like me, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Black, African American. I usually refer to myself as Black because I don't know my African roots. I'm trying to learn them. But that's something, like Thomas said, that opportunity has been stripped of us. In large part intentionally, not able to go back to records and find out who, what country we originate from, and to be able to have that sense of core value and that sense of strength of knowing your ancestry, that only gets limited here. So why has all that happened? Because of the next term we got to describe is racist, right? We talked about race, and what is a racist? I think we all pretty well know, but just the official definition, racist is a person who shows or feels discrimination or prejudice against people of other races, who believes that a particular race is superior to another. Now, this is probably a turning point for you, Thomas, I would imagine, in the idea of white power and what those words connotate versus Black power and what those words connotate. Would you agree it's the person stating it and the intention behind it?
Definitely. But I also I think that also goes into the difference that we have. I do not like being called African American. I am Black, right? And that there is a difference in that identity that makes Black power mean something to me. And I'm sure, depending on the person saying white power and their intention behind saying it, is probably the same or different.
Yeah. So then comes the big term that all of us try to wrap our minds around, and that is systemic racism. By the way, a reminder, I was defining these terms on a Sunday morning at church in a multicultural setting. Systemic racism, this was a fun one to try and unpack for people. And this is a reality in America. Systemic racism goes beyond individual beliefs and feelings about people and other races. It means that the systems on which a society functions, the economic system, the education system, the healthcare system, the criminal justice system, etc., are both infused with and impacted by racism, within which they were created and maintained. So we've got a timeline of the oppression of Black people in America on the screen. And let's walk through the systemic racism that existed in our country. Even back to the founding of the country, we had racist individuals who became leaders of our country. And maybe they weren't, maybe some of them were not overtly racist, but they were passive enough and not active enough in their willingness to stand up for humanity that they allowed the system of slavery to continue and the oppression of individual bodies and Black bodies brought into America, right? And I expressed last week, and I'll say again today, 4th of July is coming up, and Independence Day, that's a weird holiday for Black individuals in America.
Well, right? And actually, Jason, I want to be clear about that, because if we're really talking about slavery was not a racist institution. Slavery started out as an economic institution. What a lot of people don't know is that everybody started out as indentured servants, including Black people, right? So when the first Black people were brought over by a Dutch ship and they were traded for resources, those individuals became indentured servants, and they had to work just like white individuals. And at the end of their term, they got freedom and land just as white individuals. Okay, there was a turn where slavery did become race did become the differentiator between the indentured servants and the slaves. But to start, I want to just make sure everybody's clear. Slavery in and of itself is an economic institution, not a racial institution.
Truth. It just got twisted for an extremely long time in America based on race. And it ended up being a core tenet of our founding, right? So in America, for 264 years, we had race-based slavery that went beyond just the indentured servitude, where people were not allowed to win their freedom, work off their freedom. It was a lifetime. And when you bought a slave, you bought all of their descendants with them. And you had rights to sell those future bodies as the system progressed. Now, this is where America as a whole grew and built economic systems. So what is the definition of systemic racism? A society that functions, it means that systems on which the society functions, the economy, well, Thomas just clarified, slavery was an economic institution to begin with. It was cheap labor for the landowners and the merchant makers up in the north, because there were slaves in the north as well, that it was cheap labor. So it was an economic system. It gets fueled into the education system, which as we continue to progress over the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about how the education system ends up working strategically against the Black community as well. And it ends up creating this, what you hear is this school to prison pipeline, right? Where schools create a pattern of discipline and singling out that continues in the minds and lives of both the children and the teachers. And it's really interesting when we start to dive into that. But healthcare system, criminal justice system are all infused with the individual racism of the people who created these systems a long time ago. And while we may say, hey, these are old, these things happened years ago, they're still happening or impacting us today. So we look at 1865, right? You have the Emancipation Proclamation signed, slavery is abolished, and then we have segregation for 89 years. During that time, we have Jim Crow laws. We have laws that allow for a high population of Black men and women to be incarcerated, to allow for separation from Black and white communities. And you have the reality of separate but unequal institutions of education, of healthcare, of criminal justice, because of a segregation that happened. And the last point I want to touch on in how close is this really, right? Is our system of housing. And we'll dive into this a little bit further. Or do you want me to save that for a couple weeks from now, Thomas? Or should we just go quickly over that?
Am I on mute?
Nope, we can hear you.
Oh, no, let's save that.
Okay, we'll save that piece. So what you see here is the vast majority of American history is weighted towards the systematic, government-regulated disempowerment, disenfranchisement, oppression of the Black community. And it's only really been in one generation's time that these have not been laws on the books. And much of the damage that was done, or much of the damage that's created, has to be dismantled and broken down in order for there to be an opportunity to even catch up. You think about running a race and having someone get a 400 years head start, and now you're told, hey, you got your shoes, you can start running and catch up. Well, that's going to be pretty difficult. So Thomas, I'll throw it back to you to kind of wrap up the idea of race, racism, and systemic racism.
Right. So basically, race, as we talked about from the very beginning, is an artificial way of separating people. Okay. And the way that it has worked in previous history has been rulers, colonizers, convincing people that other races are animals, they're animalistic, they're savages. They need white people to tame them, to coach them to sophistication, to get them to understand the value of their land, etc. Right? So race starts with stereotypes, and it starts with our basic understanding of other people based on their race, okay? And so tonight, we have 30 minutes left. We want to break out into breakout sessions, and every room, okay, every breakout room, I want there to understand. We're going to stop the recording. We want confidentiality, but we want people to be open and to talk about their perceptions and their ideas and their feelings toward different races, what you were raised to believe, what you're starting to now understand might have been wrong about some stereotypes you have. What are some stereotypes that you had about other groups that you have found out to be right? So the goal is that we dive into a deeper understanding of race and how it impacts the way that we think about other things, okay, and policies. What Jason showed in that diagram is how law has worked to keep races different. Now it's heavily relying on us, the community members, to continue to play out the same stereotypes and the same discriminatory acts that the law previously did. And unless and until we start to confront those aspects of race that got us where we are, I don't think we're ever going to be able to figure out how we get ourselves out of where we are. Does that make sense? So we have, let's do, stop leaving.
People are like, make out groups. I don't want to have to talk. I don't want to have to be honest. That hurts.
Yeah, we need folks. And again, this is nobody gets offended, right? This is, we have these conversations in love and understanding that
Yep.
we're here, everybody's here to get made better. So I have
absolutely and we said this at the first meeting, and we probably should say this more often, is this truly is your safe space to make those comments and make those statements that, hey, I'm really uncomfortable with this idea and I've always wanted to ask a question, but I've never felt it was appropriate. Now is the time. Now is the time to be, Thomas, myself, the other leaders in the groups are here to listen and to understand that people want to grow and learn and change. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to allow this movement to continue forward, is as we all grow. Because you guys, I'll be honest, from our very first meeting, I followed up with a few people that I respect, and hey, the things that we said, how did that land with you? And someone was like, hey, you said something that kind of bugged me. I was like, okay, well, let's talk. Let's work this out, and let's gain understanding. That happened the very first meeting. That happened about an hour ago before I started this meeting. Somebody else said, hey, you said something that I really disagree with. This is bugging me. I need to understand, or I heard that you said something. And hey, let's have that conversation. Thomas and I don't purport to be perfect. Sometimes we say things maybe that are not that can be easily misperceived, or sometimes we say things that are just flat out wrong, and we need to be corrected, or we need them brought to our attention. So this is a community, and this is a safe space where we all respect one another and desire to lift one another up so we can move the country forward at the end of the day.
All right, so we have 5 breakout rooms. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the rooms, and then we will reconvene probably about 5 till to wrap up and close out. See you soon.